I heard about this. Apparently, European governments are concerned because the entire system is built around the new generation being larger than the previous one. And so when that doesn't happen, they decided, okay, well, let's start importing foreign people. And like they use the mentality that everyone is a human resource, a cog in a machine. And if we don't have enough cogs, we just import cogs from elsewhere. The problem that they're facing is that even the immigrants, like even the ones that come from high fertility nations, they settle in Europe, and within 2 or 3 generations, the number of offsprings that they produce drops to similar levels as the indigenous population. So they're now horrified because it's like, well, we can't import people nonstop, and we do need the cogs for the machine. What are we going to do? And the answer is they're going to study. Right? They're going to bring doctors with lab coats to try and figure out how to social engineer society. Now, I'm not a doctor in a lab coat, but I do have a couple of opinions. I think I know why the birth rates are low. And the reason I know this is due to the history of my country. Like every single right-wing talking point was already tried by the Communist Party when they issued a similar problem. They also didn't have birth rates, and they had a lot of factories that had to be manned. And so what I'm going to do now is I will tell you the policies of the Romanian Communist government, and I want you to tell me how based you think they were. Like from 0 to 10, right? Like after going through all the policies, I want you to tell me, okay, this is how based the communists were. Number 1, no pornography. Porn was actually banned in Romania. No LGBT stuff. Like if you're a homosexual, the communists would arrest you. It's not like pride marches weren't allowed. No. If you were accused of having gay sex, they would put you in a prison. Number 3, no contraceptives of any kind. No condoms, no morning after pill, no pill, period. There was absolutely no way of doing contraceptives. No reproductive rights of any kind. We're not just talking no abortion. We're also talking that at school, when the women would become 14, a doctor would come in to see if they're still virgins. And if they were pregnant, then the doctors would monitor the fulfillment of that pregnancy. And this would continue even in the factories. Like after the woman graduated high school and she went to a factory, she would still have to report to that doctor on a period basis just to see if they're not pregnant. Like all these systems were enacted, and I think they even had a single mother tax. They called it the celibacy tax. I'll probably make another video to discuss that, right? So how based from 0 to 10 would you say the communists were? Like, do you think that Romania, under these policies, would experience a demographic growth that would stun the rest of the world? If your answer is yes, then you're a little bit close to the truth. What ended up happening, we call it the decreței. The translation would be the children's of the decree, based on the communist decree that made all of this possible. It didn't come without trade-offs. A lot of children were born retarded because a lot of mothers tried to starve themselves, drink heavily, use various tinctures and ointments in order to get rid of the pregnancy. But they weren't successful, and so the orphanages were absolutely filled to the brim. The classrooms as well, like imagine a classroom with 40, 45 kids. And so it worked, but only for a while, because what ends up happening is like the number of birth rates, like it exploded for a little bit, it plateaued, and then it plummeted dramatically. Like most of the children that experienced this birth rate promised that they wouldn't do this to their kids as well. And so they wanted less kids. And of course, like the person that did promise the decreței, which was the wife of the communist dictator, like she got shot. And one of the main reasons she got shot was because of this. Because every single time a child with a defective growth would be born, or another orphan would be born, or any type of family would have a problem, they would blame it on her solely. Like, she did this to us. She is the one responsible. We live in poverty with 5 kids because of her. And so, in other places, usually the wife of the tyrant doesn't get shot. Like, she's either sent into exile or she's imprisoned. But in Romania, no, like people insisted that she faces the wall. And so that's the end of that story. And so what can we learn from it? Well, what I think we can learn from it is that in 2025, people of all ideologies believe that government is God. They unironically believe that if we make the rain dance, rain actually happens. And so if society faces a problem, then the government can socially engineer it and make that problem go away. But no one is asking, like, what if there are certain issues, what if there are certain things that are happening in a society that the government just can't fix? Like, there are no solutions for them. It's just like the way it is. And so let's look at the birth rates. Why are they plummeting? I think like looking for one reason, like for instance, women have rights. Well, in communism, no one has rights. Pornography. Well, in communism, pornography was banned. And so like instead of like looking at one issue, like what if there's like a multitude of issues, and some of them may even be counterintuitive or so ingrained in the way we do things that you can't revolutionize it. For instance, welfare. Like what if welfare is the problem? Which is like the foundation of the modern state. Even nations that aren't democracies still have a version of welfare. Like before, in medieval time, you would have no welfare. And so the only thing that you had for retirement was having 6 or 7 kids. Hopefully, at least 3 of them survive. And hopefully, out of those 3, at least you have one that gives a shit about daddy. So that when you're old, you have someone that brings you a glass of water. Now, in order to have retirement, you just needed to have many kids. Nowadays, people don't think like that. Nowadays, they outsource their retirement to someone else's children. And the idea is like, okay, well, you're going to have 5 kids. They're going to work. They're going to pay taxes. And when I retire, they're going to pay my pension. So, like, this mentality is already desensitizing people from having children. Another reason that's not welfare is education. Education, especially the modern education, is probably the biggest issue. Like, notice the countries that have high birth rates, they don't have education. And when I mean education, I don't mean like learning to read or write. I mean the idea that when a kid is 3 years old, he's already sent to a kindergarten, and then he is expected to continue his studies, go to school, go to high school, go to college, go to university, get a PhD, and then he finally manages to get a job maybe when he's 30 or when he's 35. In the meantime, if you have like a rural area and 2 kids that are of the age of 16, they marry and they have 5 kids, that's an abomination. But it's an abomination now. It wouldn't have been an abomination in the 1930s. Right? Like the entire change in culture of the way we do things is so fundamentally different that obviously you're going to get fundamentally different results. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying like these are the trade-offs. This is what happens when you organize your society in this manner. Like you insist that someone has 30 years of an education. You insist that people shouldn't get married unless they're stable. They shouldn't have kids unless they're financially stable. And so you end up with less birth rates. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. Like, you get an educated population that finished university, that are well-groomed in order to be corporate drones, but you get less birth rates. You get a wealthier population, sure, line goes up. That's another problem. Line goes up. This is the mantra that all ideologies want. In fact, I noticed in America, like right-wingers will look at a family that's Christian and prosperous. It's like, well, you have a lot of money because God likes you. Like, that's the explanation, right? Like, look, you're really pious. God likes you, and so line goes up. Leftists as well. Like, everything you do, people are marginalized because line doesn't go up. Line must go up constantly, right? And so, if you focus on work, if you focus on making money, you get money, but you don't get children, right? Trade-off. Again. So, like, there's multiple things like that people don't want to talk about. They don't want to discuss because they're so ingrained in our society that it would be unthinkable to even begin changing them. Like, I don't even know how you would change it. Like, people would rebel. If you decide to get rid of the welfare, the moment you have food riots, you have people burning down the streets. And within the system, right? Like within our system, if it's a monarchy, either they go for the king and they decapitate him like they did in France during the French Revolution. If it's a democracy, they just vote you out of office. And if it's a dictatorship, well, then people starve to death. And the whole reason you did this in the first place is because you wanted more people, right? So, like, I don't know what the situation to these things are, but I do know what they are, right? Like, I do notice the problem. I don't know the solution. The solution definitely cannot come from the government. That's for sure. I don't think, like, the government can fix this. I think the government is actually the problem for many of these issues. Now, if you're asking me, like, what works, well, you can look at human history, and I think, like, what actually does high birth rates seem to be a certain type of poverty, and it also seems to be heavy emphasis on motherhood. Like, mothers are actually elevated. If you have a culture that deifies mothers, not just respects them, but if you see a mother on the street, you look at her with awe and admiration, and you give her the same special privileges that a veteran in the United States has. Like for instance, people just see you on the streets and they go, thank you for your service. You know, if you have that type of culture, like societies that have that, seem to have also an explosion in birth rates. Being a mother is now being viewed as patriotic. But again, you don't have this type of culture in a modern society. Modern society is all about feminism, the conflict between men and women, judgmental. It's like, okay, not all mothers are the same. Some are good, some are bad, right? Again, you will not get what you want, but you can get closer to the goal. Like, you want more birth rates. This is how you get more birth rates. Oh, they're not the quality birth rates that you want, but you have to decide. Do you want quantity or do you want quality? Which one is it? You can't have both. The other one is a special type of poverty. Like, usually that comes after a war, right? The baby boomer generation. Why did you get it? Well, it wasn't that people were impoverished. It was that they were impoverished and the unifier. Like, the unifier was the external enemy. All of the economy was going to the war effort. People were starving. Poverty was high. And so people have children when that happens. And you can notice this in rural areas as well. It's usually like the poor nations and the poor places, even in first world nations. It's usually the rural areas that have a lot of kids. And so the idea, it's like, I don't have money to have children, is ridiculous. This is what society teaches, but it's the complete opposite. You have more money than medieval kings now. And I'm not talking about, like, financial assets. I'm talking about your standard of living, right? Like, you live in an apartment where you don't have to go out to shit in an outhouse, where you have heat during the middle of the winter. You can eat things that no medieval king could. You have access to more technology, more amenities, more stuff than any person did in the medieval era. And yet they had like 5-6 kids, and you're like, well, I don't have money for having children. What is the cope? Right? The cope is that it's the opposite. When people are poor, they have a lot of kids. Probably, I would also assume it's because they have like less entertainment to do. You know, like there's no social media. There's no music that you can listen on command. There's no movies. There's nothing. The only thing you can do is fuck. And so people fuck a lot. It's a way to release stress. It's a way of entertainment, very primal, right? Like, this is what people did. And so I think this level of poverty and restriction from modern conveniences, like the Amish have, for instance, also causes birth rates. So going to Sweden, like, what I think will happen to most Western European nations, what I think will happen is that you're going to get birth rate decline. Like, you're just going to have another generation with less kids, and another generation with less kids, and then another generation with less kids, even before that. And eventually this will bring economic calamity. It will bring famine, it will bring wars, it will bring the entire nation, the welfare state being destabilized. And then nature will take its course and correct the issues naturally. Like, there's no government intervention required. It's just like people need to experience hardship. That's it. And humanity as a species is now going to go extinct. Like, humanity has managed to suffer the Great Plagues. It has suffered the Spanish flu. It has suffered 2 world wars. Invasion forces that actually did have their purpose of exterminating populations. And humanity survived all of that. And so my vision of the future is not bleak. It's just like a wave, you know, where line goes down. And at some point, line will plateau and then go back up. I think that no empire can survive prosperity. This is the actual problem. You know, the idea that strong men make good times, that meme, I think it's like a calendar. I think it's true. I think it's a circle. It's not a line of inevitability. Anyway, right, let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you on my live stream. Link is into the pinned comment. Take care.